So I want to tell you a story about my experience in this, and going through exactly some of the changes, I think, some of the things you went through, I hope, and that they ring true with you. And it starts way back at the turn of the century. I love saying that, because I never thought in my life I'd be able to say the turn of the century. But way back at the turn of the century, around the year 2000, 2001, I started a business with Julie here, who was in that business at the time, and we were selling organizational learning. Okay, we were working with a range of clients to help them to learn better in their organizations. So a bit of training, a bit of consultancy, and we found ourselves in the marketplace of online learning. Now this was very new around the turn of the century, when the internet was still Web 1.0, hadn't got to 2.0 yet, and we had found that we had some real success creating online learning. And in fact, this particular product, the virtual micrometer, terribly technical tool. It took me a long time to learn what a micrometer was, let alone to create online learning. Actually won an international award for its cleverness and how well it was done. We started winning some contracts, won a very, very big contract for producing lots and lots of e-learning. And we were doing this, and it was great. And we thought that was the market that we wanted to be in. We looked at that market, and it was very specialized, and it seemed to be very technical. It had lots of Flash designers and computer programmers, and we spent a lot of time talking about software and interesting things like, you know, how we could make things smaller and faster. But it was the things we were producing were very expensive, and they were relatively inflexible. So if you took a long time, say we had a process, we thought we were good. It took us 8 days to create a short learning module. And that was pretty good, because the market standard at the time was something like 14 days. So we thought, oh, we're very cool. And we can do this faster than anybody else. It took 8 days. And then once you created it, if you wanted to change anything, it was like 3 days to make a change to it. So it was very clunky, very complex. And it was really, I think a lot of us felt, more about programming than learning. And you know, certainly I felt that way. I think that was in you, because Julie's a great trainer, one of the best trainers I know, and I know you had that kind of feeling. The learning people were over here, and the IT people were over here. We were trying to get them together, but it was really hard, because it didn't work for us. And so, while we had the kind of thinking model of being very commercial and recognizing that, you know, we were making money doing this stuff, and these were good products that sold for a very good price. We had lots of clients. There was something in the group of us that was feeling a bit more rock and roll. Like, well, we wanted to do something a little bit more interesting. We wanted to do this a little quicker. We wanted to have a different approach. And we wanted to engage our clients in helping us to create the e-learning that we were doing. We wanted to have the customers deeply engaged in that. And that was difficult. One of the points you talked about earlier in terms of innovation, the co-creation with the client, because they knew what they wanted. So our clients were saying, you know, we want something that is faster, cheaper, more flexible, yeah, that had industrial strength and could be used anywhere. And that was fun for people to use. But the market was telling me, well, that's just heresy. You shouldn't be saying these things, Frank. Clearly you don't understand. So I had all these pals that were running big companies making all this e-learning stuff, people I'd met at shows, and you do that, don't you? You meet your peers, and you have a chat, you have a coffee, and you find out what they're doing, and then you kind of email and everything, and you get an idea. And so, you know the point I made about testing it out in the market, there wasn't a Twitter in those days. That's what I did when I spoke to the team. But there wasn't something you could go to. So you called people up and you had a chat and you said, what do you think about this? And the response I always got back was, clearly you don't understand the market. That's not what we do. And you shouldn't be thinking this way. And when I suggested we could use PowerPoint to create e-learning, I was told, and this is a direct quote, that's a sad, limited tool. That's destined to put people to sleep. When banal charts are projected on screens, you can't possibly see this as a learning tool. Well, you can imagine how I felt when the third person told me that. Clearly, I was wrong. Clearly, I was thinking too far outside the box to be relevant. But my team was saying to me, no, we think we can do this. We think we should look at it. We think we should try. Because they were saying that that's what our customer is asking us for, that we could use that technology, that with a better creation technique, to tick all the boxes that the customer is asking for. And we really believed we could do that. Well, needless to say, we gave it a try. And we didn't get it right. I mean, the first things we did early on, I don't know if you can remember, Julie, we produced a few things. And the results were quite dismal. They really were. They weren't to the standard we wanted, and they weren't very good. And we felt, made a lot of mistakes in this. But we learned, and we carried on. And the next step, we took some of the learning out and found some new solutions to the blockages and the things that really were getting in the way, and started to develop some new techniques. Found a bit of new software. Found a few things that would help us to learn how to make that whole experience better for the customer, not just better for the learning designer. And we found that we developed a competitive edge in the business that allowed us to create things that were better, faster, and cheaper. One of our clients came to us at one stage, and they were a manufacturing client. They manufactured tiles, like you put on your walls, and it was a very dusty environment, very industrial, and they said to us, we need something that's done really fast, that we can change very easily, and we need it to be able to be done in this hostile environment, because you can't put a PC down here, because when you do, the PC fan sucks in the dust and it kills the PC. So we need, and my team had got to a stage where they were just taking everything customers said and knocking off the problems. They were just into that kind of innovation space, and they came back and they said, well, using our approach, taking PowerPoint, wrapping it in Flash, putting some interactive tools with it, we also found a kiosk we could put into the factory floor that was so ruggedized, no dust could get into it, nothing could harm it, and you couldn't steal it. That was a big factor. And we delivered it to them, and it made a step change in the way they learned. It made a step change in the things they could do. And almost weekly, we gave them some improvement, some upgrade to what we did, because we could do it. We could react that quickly. And that became a very long-term customer, and in fact, a real showcase product. What happened was, not that we had any great technological breakthrough, not that we had any great influx of capital to buy resources. What happened was the people involved got into the zone. The people involved started to get the confidence and the belief that they could make improvements, that they could do this. And they moved from a space of saying, maybe we've made a big mistake here, to actually, no, we're doing the right thing, everybody else is wrong, and we're going to go with this. And it was very, very successful in the things we can do with our clients. Needless to say, for those of you who are in the e-learning space, today the use of PowerPoint as a basis for e-learning is pretty much becoming a de facto standard. And you've got packages that will take a PowerPoint input and wrap it and create some really sophisticated learning stuff, for relatively cheap. Yeah, the market caught up. But we were there, and we were thinking, we were doing this stuff very much the hard way, without the products, but delivering the real benefits. What we learned was that accepted wisdom in the market told us we were wrong. It was the wrong thing to do. It would never work. Our customers, however, said, but that's what we want. So our customers were telling us to think again. As you know, a market is often your customers, but very often your customers and your suppliers who are setting the pace. And our customers were pushing us just a little bit ahead of the game. We did make a lot of mistakes, lots of mistakes. And there were some very, very long evenings of struggling with getting through problems and trying to work things out. But we managed to use that learning to come up with a much better product. And ultimately, we found out we were ahead of the curve, and actually the market caught up. My last point to you is that actually nothing in that story, in that situation, got in the way of us being successful in terms of the technology, or even the influence, or even the ability of the people involved. The single thing that was slowing us down, and that was getting in our way, was the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that my team felt and that I felt in taking on an approach to try an innovative style of doing something. The problem wasn't in the computer. The problem was in our heads. And it is trying to overcome that psychological barrier, that fear factor that says, don't do this, don't try this, nobody else is doing this. Yeah? That's the thing, I think, that is the innovation killer. That's the single thing that gets in the way. Today, Anand described a range of tools that everybody in this room can have tonight, yeah, can access tonight. There's stuff on websites, there's stuff anywhere you look, you can pick up a book, some guidance, some help, an online tutorial if you want, and implement in your business. There's folks out there that'll help in crowdsourcing clubs, and thought jammers from around the world will share ideas, and people openly give away information and are happy to share. There's groups like this that bring people together, and I hope you'll do this tonight, to talk to people about their experience and gain some knowledge of the things they do. All those things can speed up the process. But the one thing that can get in the way is you. The one thing that can get in the way is your belief in yourself, and your ability to do things, and your ability to learn from the many mistakes you've got to make. And I dare say I see a lot of people nodding when I talk about mistakes, so a lot of people must have been through that curve like I have so many times when I started to believe the guys who told me, you're stupid, you don't understand. But it's getting through that. It's finding the way through that and having the confidence. And sometimes it's finding the Spartacus who'll stand up with you. And I was very lucky to have a great team around me who would do that and say, no, we can do this. Let's try again. Let's rework it. Let's look at it again and see if we can get it right to be able to get there. So my parting shot to you is a very simple one. If you've come here to learn about innovation, if you've come here to get some ideas and some tools, well, I think Anand shared some of that with you. The tool I'll share is a very simple one. It is just believe in what you do. It is just keep making the mistakes. When I first learned about sales, the person who taught me, who was my kind of sales manager, said to me, you need to put a chart on your fridge and number 1 to 100. And every rejection you get, put a tick against a number. And when you get to 100, you'll get your sale. I thought she was mad, but I did it. And it was in fact around 40 that I got my sale, and I thought I must be a genius. But what she did was very simple. She helped me to see that actually the first mistakes, the first hurdles that you fall at are not the time to stop. They're actually the time to go faster. They're the time to think, to really understand, well, what's happened, to try and learn from that, to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and do it again. Because innovation is all about experimentation. It's all about getting it wrong, and it's all about then working hard to get it a little bit better every day. Thank you very much for listening tonight. Appreciate it.